This is Gemara Zevachim, Daf Lamid Ches. We're holding Lamid Zayin and Beis. We're about 15 lines from the bottom at the two dots. Ve'achatos shtei matanos, the next case of the Mishnah, which is the second din of Beishamai, which is that when it comes to a carbon chatos, there are dalid matanos, 4 times the dam has to be placed, and therefore the Mishnah Beishamai learned that 2 of them are going to be ma'akev the kapara. We like to have all the learning to be an incredible schos refuah shalema for Gavriel Simcha ben Miriam Ahuva b'seich sha'ar chayli Yisrael, says the Gemara. V'achatos shtei matanos amar Avuna shema mina. We learn from Amar Avuna, my time of the Beishamai. What is the reason for Beishamai that 2 of the 4 are going to be that which will affect the kapara? Says the Gemara, because the Torah teaches us karnois. Says 3 times the koronois, the horns of the mizbeach. Each one is plural. Arikan sheish is 6. Arba mitzvah, 4 mitzvah, shtayim la'akev. So how does Beis Hillel argue? Beis Hillel, karnos, harikan arba. Says Beis Hillel, no. And if you're remembering, we had a very similar discussion as we're about to a moment expand this into Yeshem L'Mikra, Yeshem L'Mesaira in Mesechus Sukkah elsewhere. Says Beis Hillel, it's written without the vav, aside for 1 time. So when it's written with the vav, it's plurals. That's going to be 2. The other 2 times is 1 is 4. Shalish lemitzvah, 3 lemitzvah, v'achzakev. Ask the Gemara, v'ema kulu lemitzvah. Ask the Gemara, according to Beis Hillel, why don't we say all 4 of them are lemitzvah? Explains the Gemara, kapara bechti lo yashchan. We don't find the case that you can have a kapara bechti with nothing. You need something for the kapara, and we're learning that the matan dam is going to be that. Another way of learning Beis Hillel, line of time to Beis Hillel, ahani mikra v'ahani misaires. Beis Hillel learns that both the mikra and the misaires help us. Ahani mikra litfuye chada. The way that you say it, the mikra, is 1. V'hani l'misaires l'batsuri chada. And the way that it's written comes to subtract 1. And therefore, you're going to have 6 minus 1. Therefore, you can have 5. Of the 5, 4 are going to be l'mitzvah, and 1 is going to be me'akif. Ask the Gemara, if this is true, harei kan arba. With regarding the tefillin, the Torah teaches us taitafais, the same thing, 2 without a vav, 1 is with a vav. Ahani krav, ahani meseires. According to the second teres, why don't we say the same lamdas? And chamisha bati lemevad. And then it's going to come out that how many boxes of our tefillin, which we know, of course, we have 4. But according to the second teres, that you have both the meseires and both the mikra, should come out that how many do you have? Should come out that you have 5, similar to the 5 that we have right now. Says the Gemara, Savalak Rav Akiva, Tamar tat bekasvi shayim. Beis Hillel holds, according to the secretaries like Rav Akiva, that the word tat in the kaspi means 2, pas be'afriki is shtayim, and that's how you get tat 2, pas 2, that's how you get 4. Ask the Gemara, okay, let's go to other times where we have similar limudim, as we mentioned this sukkah. Elamiyata b'sukkos. Ahani mikra v'ahani miseres chamisha dafni by lemeva. And according to Beis Hillel, your sukkah should need 5 walls. We turn over to Lameches Amar Aleph and explains the Gemara, Hasam over there in the world of sukkah, chad kra kulei gufe. One of the words of sukkah we need for its own usage. Chalis chachasoy, and one we need for the fact that there's chach. The Sinai comes, subtracts the 3rd wall, and that's what we get 2 in a little bit. Continues the Gemara, more cases that we have similar drushes. Shvuayim. The Torah says Vitama Shvuayim, that after a woman gives birth, she's tamei for Shvuayim, 2 weeks. shivim, but the way that the word is written is without that vav, so shivim, it sounds like the word is 70. Hani krav, hani misayres, and arba'im v'tartin bayi, it should come out that you need to have 42 days of toma. Answers the Gemara, shani as lemesav, shani as chsiv, ke nidasa, which means it's going to be similar to our terms of nida, which is going to be in the form of weeks, and that's how we know it's going to be 2 weeks. So that is the opening of today's Machlekes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, how they learn by us, how many mata and dam are li kuva and are li mitzvah, and then by extension we went into all the different forms that we have similarly, taitafais, sukkah, and finally shivu ayim. Continues the Gemara in Shitas Beis Hillel, Vitana maisi la mehacha. The Tana, the Brisa, learns it out from here. We're 6 lines down. The first one line is law. V'chiber, v'chiber, v'chiber. The Torah says regarding the chatos, the word v'chiber 3 times, which teaches us mimnei adin sheyachol. I would have thought mimnei adin that logically svara kal v'chaimer. I would have thought that all the matan dam are essential. But one second, it's shver. Nemer dam lamata v'nam dam lamala. Mamata dam namur lamata shenim b'matanachas kiper. Tamur lamala shenim b'matanachas kiper. So the Gemara starts off. The Gemara says 1 second. The fact that the Torah says v'chiper 3 times should show us that really you only need to have 1 matan dam as a kapara. Memnei hadin. The Ne'adin comes along and teaches us svara that all of them should be liikuva. The problem is that nemer dam lamata, so it should be similar. It should only be 1. Oiklach l'derech. We go the other ways. Do nemer dam bifnim, nemer dam lachotz. Ma damer bifnim chizar achas min amatanos lois leklum. If you're lacking 1, you did nothing. After rachotz chizar min amatanos lois leklum. So says the Gemara, we don't know what to do. Which way do we turn? Are all of them are integral or not? So says the Gemara, let's try to understand the 2 sides of the coin. Nira lemi daima. Which carbon is the carbon that we're discussing? The chatas chitzayna more similar. Danin, do we say chotz michotz vein den chotz bifnim? That's one way to learn. Oiklach l'derech zudan chatas varba kronis michatas varba kronis. And don't prove to me so based on the fact that we're not sure which way to turn, says the Gemara, Talmud Loimar, v'chiper, v'chiper, v'chiper. The word is utilized 3 times. V'chiper, number 1, even if you only put it 3 times, you get a kapar. V'chiper, number 2, you get a kapar. V'chiper, number 1, you still get the kapara, and that's how. So the way that we read this whole Gemara might have been a little tricky, but just to go back up a moment, was like a introductory statement. Then we went into Mibnei Adin, Svara would dictate you need all 4. We try to weigh both sides of the coin. We went back and forth and back, and we circle back around. Therefore, Talmud Loimar, and that's where Beisel learns that one of them is going to be liikuva. Asks the Gemara, 1 second, but we need these psukim for itself. So how can you tell me? They're coming to tell me how many times you have to place the dam. Amar Rava Barada, Barada, Mari Asberli Barada explained to me, Amar Krava Chiper and Vinislach. Zui kapara, zui slicha. That's how we learn out the kapara, and therefore one of the v'chipers are extra, and that's going to tell me that 1 matan dam, according to Beis Hillel, is going to be the integral. Ask the Gemara, Ema v'chiper, avli shenatan el shalosh l'mala v'achas l'mata. But says the Gemara, wait, we have 3 ways of the word v'chiper, right? So we darshaned it. Only 3, only 2, only 1, showing us that 1 placement of dam is liikuva. Says the Gemara, how do you know that's how you darshan it? Maybe v'chiper avishalas el shal shemal v'achas lamata. V'chiper number 2 avishalas el shtayim lamata shtayim lamala. V'chiper number 3 avishalas el lamala el lamata. So maybe it's not teaching us with regard to 1 mata dam, but it's teaching us in the placement above and below that if you only did a lamata, it's going to be kasha. If you're right, then there's no such thing as putting on the four corners. Virachmana Amar. But if the Torah said v'chiper levatzloin, is it going to come along and be mevatel them? Says the Gemara, can't be. So Amar Rava Izo Davar Tzarich Shalish. What is an entity that requires three? Three times v'chiper. Haviomer ilu karanos. This is the number of karanos that it must be applied to, and therefore the three extra psukim reduces and says, no, it's not all four matan damim, but as we thought, it brings it down to one, that one is going to be leikuva. Ask the Gemara 6 lines to the bottom, says Mara, but wait, maybe one of the third v'chiber should teach us that one above and three below. Meaning, maybe you're right that there is a musig of lamata lamala, but maybe we just learned it wrong. Says Mara, lo matzinu damin shechetzi lamala v'chetzi lamata. We never find such a thing where it's going to be half and half, and that can't be the way to darshan. Says Mara, really? V'loi? V'atanan, husband v'achas lamala v'shev lamata. We know in Yom Kippur. Says the Gemara, Kim Matzlif, as we read in the Avodah of Yom Kippur. My Kim Matzlif, Machirav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda showed us Kim Magdina, like a whip. That's what it means. So it's a special form of Achas Lamata Mala Vishiva Lamata. Says Gemara, wait, but I'll show you another Makar, the last line. Hazel Tahira Sham Mizbeach Sheva Pamim. Says the Gemara, it says you should sprinkle on the Mizbeach Hazav 7 times. This is Nachal by the dam of the Yom HaKippurim. And says the Gemara, my love, when you're putting it on the Mizbeach Hazav 7 times, as we turn over to Lamachesem Ebeis, my love, Afalgei, the Mizbeach. It means that where are you placing the dam? On the middle of the Mizbeach. Kedamri Inshi Tahara Diyuma. As people say that the purity of the day has come, the noontime, the middle of the day has come. So what do we see? There's no way, if you're putting 7 times down, there's no way Mamish will hit smack on the midpoint. So must be there's some above, some below. So we have another makar for what we were saying, that you can have some down above, some down below. Amar Rava Bar Shila lo yigalia. Says Rav Shiva lo yigalia. Means on the top of the mizbeach. As the pasuk says, like the appearance of the heavens in purity, that's what the dam is used. Vika shirayim. Says Marba, wait, what about pouring the rest of the blood on the side of mizbeach? And therefore, what do we see? If you're placing the dam on the kronos and you're pouring dam the yisai, now you have achs lamal, achs lamata. You see nacham, the dam is split up top and bottom. Says the Gemara, shirayim loy ma'akim. No, the shirayim pouring the blood is not ma'akiv. V'hoika shiraya apanimim. But there's the shiraya of the chatas apanimi dikal mandamar the ma'akvi. B'chan mokaim kamrinon. Says the Gemara, what it means to say is, we never find in one case, on one blood zrika application, that's going to be part above, part below. Meaning, you're right, there are cases of shirayim, of pouring the blood, but that's not the same as what we're trying to suggest in the kasha of lamal to lamala, and therefore we go back that the 3 v'chipers are going to subtract from 4 all the way down to 1 will be integral, shitas beisilo. Continue 6 lines down, lamachas beis, the 2 dots. Tanya, we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Aimer Rabbi Shammai Aimrim Shtei Matana Shebachatos Vachas Shebachol Zevachim. 2 times that you place the dam of the chatos, and 1 time the dam of all other karbanos, matirais umifaglois. They're matir to eat the carbon, and if there is a machshava pigel, it makes it pigel. Beis Hillel Aimrim says Beis Hillel. Not 2 of the chatas. Again, this is a further application of Beis Hillel Shita, like you just taught us a moment ago, which is what? 1 placement of the tam is liyikuva. So another application of that is that during that one application of the tam, that's what will both be matir and have a potential pegel. Maskivla, Materis, Maskivla, Umafalegis, Maskila, Ravoishia, Imkain, Lesneu, Gabe, Kule, Beishamai, Vechumre, Beisilel. Based on what we just said, it comes out that according to Beishamai, it's a Kula. According to Beis Hillel, it's going to be a Chumrah. Why? Because according to Beis Shammai, it's only Pigel if you had the Pigel Machshava by both Avodas. By Beis Hillel, it's going to be Pigel by one Avodah. So it comes out that Beis Hillel is being more Machmir. So we shall list this amongst the cases of a Kule Beis Shammai, Chumrah Beis Hillel. Amrei Rava, says Rava Ki Itchil, when we ask the Kasha, Latira Itchil, Davle Beis Shammai Lechumrah. Was asked klape lehetira, klape eating the carbon, and klape eating the carbon, Beis Shammai is more machmir, because Beis Shammai requires 2 times matan dam. Meaning, says the Gemara, you're right. There are elements of kula here, but since it was asked klape the eating, it doesn't get listed as one of the cases of the kula Beis Shammai v'chomrei Beis Hillel. Continues the Gemara Amar Rav Yechon. Moving on to another topic of the matanas dam by the karban chatas. Shalosh matanas shebachatas einam ba'is balayla. The 3 times you have to put the blood of the karban chatas, as we'll see, these are the non-essential, because we're saying only one is essential according to Beis Hillel. So the other 3, says Rav Yechanan, cannot come at night. Uba'is lachar misa, but they could come after the owner dies. V'amala me'en bachotz chayiv. But if someone puts them on the mizbeach, if someone puts them up outside outside of the Beis Hamikdash, then he is chayiv. Even though these 3 matanais are not as integral, but still they have a din that are a matan dam of a chatas, and therefore they cannot be brought at night. If they're malabachotz, one would be chayiv kares, but it would be yes ba'ois lachar misa. Amar Papa yesh b'em kitchila, so yesh b'em kisayfai. Says Papa, some of them are like the beginning, the first matan dam, and some are like the sayfai, the shirayim, the pouring of the dam, the end of the carbon. Chotz v'layla, regarding bringing the carbon, the dam outside of the Beis Hamikdash, or bringing a night. Zarais ukli shares, regarding being done by a non-kayin or using kli shares. Keren ve'etzma, regarding using the keren of the mizbeach and the kain's finger. Kibos v'shirayim, washing off the clothing of the kain if it got dam in it, and the rest of it will be shirayim. Ketzchilas, and all of those dinim are treated like the original, essential ikuva kaparadika matan dam of the chatas. But misa, however, regarding the fact that it's brought after the owner dies, lo sharia v'le mefalga, the fact that this placement of these 3 times the blood are not integral, therefore they don't permit the eating of the meat, nor whether it be pigel, v'lo aliyah. Aliyah, 1 second. Let's get rid of that extra highlight. There it is. V'lo aliyah ligavai. And regarding that, if it's brought inside, the heichal won't make a puzzle. Kisaifan. Those are all like the end of the carbon, which is pouring the dam, the shirayim. Says the Gemara, let's go. Amar Papa Amina Amin Allah. Where do we know these dinim? If it's spritzed, if it's sprinkled from the animal's neck, Allah beg it onto the garment of the kayin. You don't have to wash the kayin's clothing. If it's spritzed, if it's sprinkled from the horn of the mizbeach, from the yisaid, but if it's spritzed, if it got on the kayin's clothing, that which is ra'i lekaren, then ton kibos. Then yes needs to be washed off. So what do we see? We see that even though the dam at that point might have been for one of the non-essential, might have been the dam for the 3 times placing it on the horn of the mizbeach, still would yes require kibos washing the kohen's clothing. Ask the Gemara, wait, 7 lines to the bottom. Many yisaid inotan kibos, hamin arayli yisaid tayin kibos. The same diak. Said if that which you put on the yisaid, you don't have to launder the garment if it got on the clothing. Which is mashma, if it's only right for the yisaid, it would yes require kibos. What's the kasha? Asher hayazik siv. The pasuk says, if some of the blood that requires to be sprinkled on the clothing, you wash it off. Prat lezeh shekvar huza. That excludes something that was already sprinkled. Hamani. So who is that? Rav Nechemia. Ditnan Rav Nechemia Omer. Sheri adam shekrivan bachotz. Chayiv. Gonna be chayiv. So Rav Nechemia holds, if it's brought the shirayim bachotz, the Beis Hamikdash, you're going to be chayiv. So seemingly it would also require you to wash off the clothing. And therefore, according to Rav Nechemia, if the dam is roi for the 3 mata and dam, it would also require to wash off the clothing. Says the Gemara, Eimer the Shamas the Rav Nechemia l'inyan ha'ala. Rav Nechemia only said his din regarding bringing it up out to the Beis Hamikdash midiyavei evarim u'pedarim, because that's the halacha with regard to evarim u'pedarim, that if you bring them out to the Beis Hamikdash, you're chayiv. L'ini kibos mishamas, says Gemara, who says Rav Nechemia holds his din klab kibos? Says Gemara, yes, he indeed does. V'ha tanya, as we turn over to Lametes and Aleph, as we learned in a braysa, damim atunin yisaid tuunin kibos. We're going to stop over here. This is going to take us into the next Amud Shitas from Nechemia. Pick it up from here, b'siyata d'ishmaya.